Hello there, and welcome to a brand new episode of The Partial Historians. I am an ill Dr. Rad. Still rad, just sad.
Rad but sad.
Rad but sad.
I am your co-host, Dr. Greenfield. I'm sorry to hear that you're unwell, Dr. Radness.
It's alright. I'm expecting a stripogram from you later to make me feel better.
You know me, I aim to please.
So, in spite of my illness, there is Roman history to be discussed, Dr. G.
Oh yeah, there is.
Yeah, we've been tracing the journey of Rome from the founding of the city, and we're kind of getting somewhat closer.
We're inching closer and closer all the time, dear listeners.
Exactly. So, last time we spoke, I believe we were talking about some people being tried for misconduct during battles. One of them was condemned, one of them wasn't.
Yeah, it was a bit of a crazy situation.
It was, yeah.
From what I can remember.
Yeah.
So Servilius sort of was up on trial for, like, letting everybody down.
Yeah.
And he's like, guys, everybody makes mistakes.
Well, Rome has just been through quite a traumatic episode, if our sources are anything to go by, in that they have just suffered the loss of the entire Fabian gens. Not really, but pretty substantial.
Most of the Fabians.
Most of the Fabians. That's right. And in the aftermath of that, I can understand that there's going to be, some fallout. You can't just lose a family.
Somebody's to blame.
Yeah, you can't just lose a family and then everyone be all cool with it.
True. But they have the trials and everything works out, kind of.
Well, yeah. Not for Menenius, but for Servilius, yes. Yes, it does.
Servilius gets out quite well.
He does. Now, in my account after this, of course, as soon as internal problems are dealt with, external problems arise to take their place. In my account, I'm up to a new war. What are you up to?
It's always a seamless transition.
I know. What are you up to, Dr. G?
Yeah, it turns out that, Dionysius reckons that they have to face the Tyrrhenians, so heading up north again.
Yeah.
Veii needs to be properly dealt with.
Of course.
And it turns out...
this is who the Fabians were trying to deal with in the first place.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So that was not quite knocked over, as it turns out.
Well, no. They killed all the Fabians.
It was a bit of a loss.
They didn't deal with them at all.
So, there's that outstanding war at play.
Yeah.
And it seems like the Sabines have gotten excited about the fact that Veii has, pulled off this victory, wiped out the Fabian gens, so to speak.
Yeah.
and they're like, we're all bored. Let's join together.
This is exactly what I have in Livy. Surprising. But yes.
Oh, our sources come together.
I know. Finally, there is some agreement. Yeah, I can understand this happening because it would seem that Rome is totally on the back foot. And therefore, it would make sense for, my... Wait, hang on. Sick brain. My enemy's enemy is my friend? Yes. That's what I wanted to say. So I can totally understand them joining forces and trying to deal with Rome together.
Yes. Strongly fought against the Romans. So we're in round about 475 BC.
Yes.
Just to recap where we are historically. We're in the middle of the consulship of Publius Valerius Publicola. And
of the popular family.
Of the very popular family. Historically quite popular.
Indeed.
And of Gaius Nautius Rutilus.
Never heard of him before.
Who's that guy, you say? Well, just you wait. He gets short shrift in the narrative as well.
Right, yeah. So, luckily for the Romans, in my account, even though they've got unity amongst the people of Veii and the Sabines, they do still have some friends. The Latin allies. The Latines and the Hernicians.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're very good allies. They've been given lots of gifts, so I'd want them on side, really.
They are loyal. Good
they
on
are
them.
very loyal, and they're expecting some booty.
Well, and the Romans call on them, of course, to face off this united front. And so in my account, it's Valerius, the consul Valerius, who is sent with Roman forces to deal with this situation. And the way that he deals with it in Livy is that he chooses to attack the Sabine camp first. And the Sabines seem to have camped basically right near the walls of Veii. So,
Seems reasonable.
Exactly, yeah.
Hi, friends.
Precisely. Now, I don't know whether the Sabines, weren't expecting this to happen, but they seem to be quite panicky quite quickly. And so when the Romans attack them, they seemingly run around, knocking into each other, dropping plates, gasps, screams, They don't seem to have been very prepared for an attack. For
Nobody
people who
told me a dinner party was happening. The Romans are here, guys.
What? You mean uniting against Rome means that they might
Turn up.
War? Yeah, so that's what happens in my account. How about yours?
I think that we've got a nice sort of almost seamless unity here.
Synergy.
Yeah, this is great. So Valerius sets out with the flower of the Roman youth and the auxiliary
forces. Any even
forces.
left, but okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, they must be getting younger all the time.
Yeah. That's why they're the flower.
The flower.
The delicate bud.
Oh,
yeah.
No Fabii.
Children soldiers.
This is how you learn to defend
That's
Rome.
right.
Oh God. So yes, the flower of the youth, as they are so described.
Yeah.
And the auxiliary forces, which must be the Latins and the Phoenicians, but they're not referred to specifically by Dionysius. He just sort of brushes over them.
Dropping the ball, Dionysius.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Auxiliary forces of the allies.
That's right, yeah.
And they head towards Veii.
Yeah.
They come across the Sabine camp, and the Sabines apparently haven't set up any watch or guard because they feel like they're in safe territory. Yeah.
Foolish. That's really weird because, as we said numerous times,
it's a war
Veii
camp,
is not
guys.
that far away.
Also, yeah, you can march there. It doesn't take that long.
Exactly, yeah.
So the Sabines are asleep and caught unawares, and they don't do very well, and they basically run away, and a whole bunch of them are described as being slain in their beds, which doesn't sound very pleasant at all.
This is interesting, actually, because I don't know whether my account is disagreeing with yours or whether it's just that they didn't have any guard in your account, because Livy is quite specific about the way the Romans then start to take the camp, in that he says that they attacked the gate and then captured it, and then attacked the ramparts, and that's where they start having like a really fierce battle, which would imply, I mean, that's all stuff just for those of you who aren't, up on your military technology in ancient times, what are you doing? That would imply that they do have defenses up around the camp, like fortifications. Is that what?
Yeah, that makes sense. That seems like a far more reasonable narrative.
Yeah. No, I thought you said. Never mind. I thought Dionysius was like they just went to sleep.
Yeah, no, but he does. Like, he
okay.
says that there is no guard worth mentioning,
Uh-huh.
and so this is a clear discrepancy in these accounts.
Okay, cool.
And I'd say that Livy is a far more reasonable account at this point. Of course, if you've got a camp, you should have ramparts.
Yeah.
You should have a gate. There's got to
This
be a
isn't
palisade.
camp and holiday, Sabines.
Yeah, you would obviously have a defensive perimeter around your camp.
Yeah.
That's just basic war strategy at this point in this region.
Totally, yeah.
So the idea that the Romans were able to get in and just kill soldiers while they're sleeping seems like a very unlikely story coming from Dionysius.
Well, Livy definitely agrees that he specifically says, well, at least the English translator of Livy says, there was carnage rather than a battle. So, yeah, totally the Sabines are going to get massacred. But yeah, he talks a lot about how there's, confusion in the city of Veii itself, which is obviously next to the camp. He describes the people in Veii running around as though their city had been captured. Lunatics. Lame. And that some of them go to help the Sabines, some of them just go to fight the Romans, and therefore the Romans kind of end up, it seems, about to take the Sabine camp, so they're kind of fighting a war. I'm using flesh rabbits. A war on two fronts, as in they're fighting. I should probably say battle. They're fighting the Sabines on one side and the people of Veii on the other, and yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, because they're the Romans, they totally give them the old 1-2 and no problems.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the outcome is essentially the same, but how they get there is a little bit different in our source material.
Tell me.
Well, I don't really have too much to add. It's mostly that Dionysius seems to suggest that he takes the Sabine camp first.
Yeah.
Valerius goes in. He's got the flower of the Roman youth. It's all great.
Yeah.
They slay people in their beds.
Nice.
Woo. And then they move almost directly straight on to attacking Veii and the camp of the Venetians, which is nearby.
Yeah, okay.
It's in a better defensive position than the Sabine camp.
Yeah.
They're in their own territory. Seems reasonable. But again, the Tyrrhenians and the people of Veii all start to sort of crumble under the pressure and sort of flee back into the city.
Yeah. Okay, cool. The Roman cavalry gets a special mention in my account. It's playing a crucial role.
Oh.
I love the way that
5 stars cavalry.
I know. I love the way that Livy sums this up. He says, "Thus were overcome in the same hour 2 armies of the 2 greatest and most powerful of the neighbouring states." Ha ha!
This is almost like the opening of Romeo and Juliet. 2 households.
I know.
Both alike in dignity.
I feel like Livy might have, and this is pure guesswork, but I kind of feel like after all the badness with the loss of the Fabians, not really, that maybe Livy tried to sort of play this up a little bit to, I don't know, just make the Romans sound like things aren't so bad. It's coming around. Everything's coming up Rome again.
After the disastrous loss.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, the city of Rome itself was almost captured. I mean, it was pretty close run. So I kind of feel like maybe that's why Livy has a bit more detail and is kind of trying to brag a little bit.
The redemption narrative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, got to come back from that with something.
Dionysius instead decides to focus on the possible redemption of Servilius.
Oh.
Yeah.
Does he fight in this?
Yeah, apparently so.
Oh, well.
He's fighting as a legate, so a junior commander underneath Valerius.
Right.
And he distinguishes himself quite well in this battle.
I'm skeptical.
Showing up just in time to make good.
Then again, just because you're a douchebag doesn't, I suppose, make you incapable of fighting as a soldier.
Yeah, so my notes on the side here is like, is this redemption for Servilius?
No.
Or is this confirmation that the patricians were right about him?
He's beyond redemption. No, I know what you mean. Yeah, okay. Fair call.
So it seems like Livy and Dionysius are using this moment in perhaps different ways to achieve similar
redemption,
ends.
Yeah. No, I agree, because it seems like, it's another one of those battles that we talked about a million times. Skirmishes with Veii, skirmishes with the Sabines. Nothing really special, I don't think, to see here, except for the fact that it's the first one after
the Fabii loss.
Well, and the subsequent, oh my god, they're going to take Rome, like they've come the whole way.
And certainly it seems that the Romans themselves are very invested in how this outcome goes as well, because Valerius is granted a triumph.
Ooh.
Oh,
yeah.
As a result of the victories in this particular sequence of battles. And it's given some description in Dionysius as well. So there's a little bit of emphasis placed on it. This is the redemptive moment.
Perhaps we should remind our listeners, just in case they're joining us for the first time, what a triumph is.
Ooh, a triumph is a very exciting military victory reward.
Yeah, it's kind of like the best thing you can get, apart from actual booty.
Definitely.
But in theory, honor-wise, it's the best that you can.
Huge public recognition.
Yeah.
You get to walk along a processional route into Rome.
Yeah. With your troops, which is not allowed any other time.
Very fancy.
Yeah.
You get to wear the special toga.
Yeah.
All purple.
Yeah.
Hail.
Yeah. Which is like kingly, basically.
Yeah.
Like it used to be. Yeah. In the good old days when they were kings.
Harking back to the royal moments.
Yeah.
And it's described in this case as the people who are lining the processional route are crowned with garlands. So everybody's coming out to celebrate.
Everyone gets a garland.
The route itself has been perfumed with frankincense.
Oh, wow.
I know. Ooh la la.
Scented pavement. Now you know you've made it.
And when he enters, he and the army are received with bowls of honeyed wine.
Ooh,
tasty.
Fancy. The Romans do like their wine with a bit of honey, don't they? Weirdos. Yeah. Or water.
Well, it's one or the other.
Gross. Yeah, cool. Okay, so that's obviously pretty special, even though at this point in time, I'm imagining that it would be fairly small scale.
It doesn't seem that significant as far as the narratives goes and the type of battle being described. This seems like pretty routine warfare on the Romans' part.
But you're right, if they're giving them a triumph, then, plus, I mean, let's face it, they just like the Valerii Publicola people. They just like them.
Oh, yeah, they're very much in favour.
Yeah.
And this means that everything that Nautius does, the other consul for this year, gets relegated to a single paragraph.
Well, at least he had the paragraph. He's got nothing in mind.
Look, he tried. He was sent with the Latins and the Venetians particularly.
Yes.
And to help defend their territory.
So, okay, sorry, correction. He does get stuff in mind. I thought you were talking about it against Veii. I was like, he's got no part in that.
Oh, yeah. So he's heading out against the Volscii, who seem to be this sort of perennial threat to the south.
Again, I mean, it's a usual skirmish warfare with people around them, isn't it? Yeah, I've got the Volscians and the Equii.
Yes. Well, the Equii do get a mention. I just sort of skipped over them. Sorry, that wasn't Dionysius.
Getting sketchy in your old age.
I mean, I've been unwell this week as well. What can I say?
Excuses.
But the only sort of significant detail that's attached to Nautilus's exploits is that he does a lot of crop burning. So he does a bit of scorched earth as part of his policy.
Wow.
Retreating out.
Seems risky given the whole grain
I
issues.
know, exactly. I'm like, that's exactly what my note says. Seems a crazy act given the recent grain shortage.
Yeah, and the starvation and whatever.
So I feel like Rome is like sort of almost in over its head at this point. They've got their own grain shortage to deal with. They're surrounded by enemies. They're stretching their forces in different directions, but they don't want anybody else to have any grain either, even though it would probably be a better bet at this point to steal grain.
That might actually explain the very vague detail that I get in Livy, because Livy talks about how the Volscians and the Acrii obviously see that Rome is distracted dealing with Veii and Sabines. Classic maneuver, they pounce. They start attacking the Latin territory because, of course, they're away helping the Romans. So, of course, the Romans are like, well, we can't let our allies be treated like that, and, send off Nautius to deal with them. However, what he says is that every kind of severity and indignity was practiced against the Volscians, but they wouldn't actually fight.
Oh.
So there's actually not like
there's no actual
battle.
set to battle.
No, I mean, not according to Livy. Because, the Volscians are just not having a bar of it. So he's trying to provoke an engagement, and it's just not happening. That might explain what he means when he says every kind of severity and indignity, because I'm like, what the hell is that? That sounds like a long list. Like,
let your imagination run wild, dear listener.
Yeah, like you moon them, a la Braveheart. You make them watch like JLo movies back to back. What is this?
You see your grain? I'm pooping on your grain.
Yeah.
What about that?
I know. Like, you sleeping with their wives? What's going on here? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think the scorched earth policy
that
might be
makes
part
sense.
of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally. Yeah. So in my account, it kind of fizzles out, and that's why Nautius has,
pretty
naught to celebrate.
Pretty much. Yeah. So he returns home, doesn't get a triumph.
Yeah.
The Volscii remain unimpressed.
When are they ever impressed with the Romans? Let's be honest.
Fair enough.
So that takes me basically into the next year.
Oh yeah, it's time. A brand new year.
Yeah. And once again, I think we've got a bit of a favourite family coming to the fore, Dr. G. Do you have Lucius Furius being one of the consuls for the
I
Fabians?
certainly do. A Furious. Everyone loves the Furious family.
No one's as good as Spurius Furius, but I'll take a Lucius if that's all I can get. I've also got Aulus Manlius, being in charge with.
Okay, yeah. So it's round about 474 BCE. Lucius Furius Mendelinus Fusus.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm getting into
when
looking
did
up
that
all
happen?
of their names.
Yeah.
The Furii Mendelunini are a patrician branch of the Furiigans.
Of the patrician family, the
The Furious Gens.
Yeah, the most furious.
And there seems to be some conjecture and discrepancy around the name of the other consul. So Aulus Manlius Volso is one of the names listed in Dionysius. It sounds like that's the name that's also listed in Livy.
Yeah.
But we think, through further investigation, that this might actually be Gnaeus or Gaius Manlius Volso.
Okay, so it is a manly eye.
It is a manly eye.
And manly men.
Very much so. But he's given this name Aulus in a lot of these accounts because there is a decemvir in 451 coming up soon on the partial historians.
How soon? We'll never know.
20 years from now. 451 BC. And he's recorded in the Fasti Capitolini. But chronologically, it doesn't really
sense.
support throwing this guy 20 years back in time.
I was going to say, that's still quite a gap. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that he probably...
It's possible.
But that's quite a gap, yeah.
So they think that this guy is Gnaeus or Gaius, though there's a slippage between those two praenomens over time, and this is the father of the later decemvir.
Right, yeah, that makes sense, yeah. Well, I don't actually have a lot recorded for them, apart from the fact that Manlius, whoever he really is, is placed in charge with dealing with Veii. And after all this drama, after all these lost little Fabii, all of you can tell me is that he's put in charge of dealing with Veii, but that the war didn't continue. I'm like, really? That's it? I mean, I know it's not it. I know it will come back, but still, like, that's it for now.
Okay. I have some more details that hopefully will satisfy you.
Okay, thank you. I really hate it when men leave me unsatisfied.
Ooh, same. I'm here to help, don't worry.
Thanks. You're like getting your lady friends.
So, manliness. Yeah, he's told that he needs to, like, lead out some troops and tackle the issue with Veii.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but Veii has shut themselves all up in their city, and they're refusing to come out. And then it seems that they send some ambassadors.
Interesting. It's so weird. Like, it's not that long ago they're coming from a position of strength, and now look at them hiding behind their walls.
Wow, hiding behind their walls, but sending ambassadors to the Tyrrhenians, so further up north, and to the Sabines, to see if they can gather enough forces together.
Sorry, I thought you were going to say to Rome.
Oh, no, yeah, but just you wait. I mean, it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
But that fails.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense, yeah.
And then they come out of the city and with tokens of supplication to offer to Manlius. And they beg for an end to the war.
Well, apparently, Manlius is in charge of organising a truce with them. And apparently it's negotiated for 40 years. And Veii is obliged to give Rome corn and to pay their soldiers.
Yeah, this is pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a truce for 40 years. I'm with you.
Sure.
And the sense that they have to pay for a year's worth of army support.
Yeah.
And provisions for 2 months. So 2 months worth of grain.
Yeah, okay.
Essentially.
Sounds reasonable.
In a grain crisis?
Well, I mean, you know, like, that's the point, of course.
Oh!
What else are they going to ask for? You know, like, that totally makes sense to me.
Guys, we're hungry.
Yeah. Now, of course, in the usual swings and roundabouts that is Roman history at this time, once Veii is put down, Volscii are dealt with, the Aequii are fine, that gives the Romans at home something to think about. And so, of course, we've got internal problems.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But before we get to the internal problem...
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you.
Okay.
You know, Manlius gets an ovation for...
What? For that?
For developing a truce with Veii. Apparently...
Oh, that's lame.
This is like a smaller, less impressive triumph.
Yeah.
He doesn't get to
I always
wear...
imagine it as being a bit like a standing ovation nowadays, where people are like, yeah, I'll stand up for you, but that's it.
No more than that. He gets to wear a crown, but it's not the laurel crown. It's a myrtle crown.
Yeah.
Lame.
It's either laurels or nothing.
He gets to enter on foot. Apparently, if it's a triumph, he does get to ride in the chariot.
Yeah.
So you can walk into the city and everyone's like,
Well, I mean, I get that the thing with Veii has been a big deal, but this is a pretty fizzled out ending. I mean, I suppose I should at least concede that there is some diplomacy shown. So I guess it's not a bad thing.
But also we've got... I think this is also part of this legacy of the loss of the Fabii. Where it's like, we've got to resolve this situation.
That's true. Yeah.
And Rome does have a grain crisis, even if it's really not willing to admit it.
Yeah, I guess.
And if they can stop fighting people for a while, they will have time to farm their crop.
And eat.
Yeah. And that might be nice for a change.
Yeah, true. Well, I guess, this is the thing. The grain crisis is what the problems that I am facing at home is all about, Dr. G.
Yeah, and this is just a small segue into the disastrous internal politics of Rome. Yeah. Because as soon as you don't have war, what happens?
Yep. Oh, the grain crisis. The agrarian law. It comes back. Yeah, so basically in Livy's account, once again, those troublesome tribunes are at work. They're reminding the plebeians, you know how you're starving? Don't you remember that? I'm sure that you've forgotten because you're such idiots most of the time.
Feel your empty belly.
But now that we're not concentrating on external problems, let's remind ourselves of what this is all really coming down to. The fact that we're starving and have no grain. And the consuls don't seem to have been, even though in our prior episode we talked about the two guys who were brought up on charges, Menenius, who committed suicide out of shame, and Servilius, who got away with it. Don't know how. Apparently rhetorically.
Talked his way out of
in
a hard
spite of
place.
them being put on trial for agrarian-related issues, the consuls seem oblivious to this problem, in my account. How are they in your
Yeah, well, it's a pretty swift year in terms of the consulship, because in Dionysius' narrative, we have the truce concluded with Veii, and then we move into the next year of politics.
See, I think that Livy is trying to indicate that the tribunes are whipping up problems at the end of Furius.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and because it does seem to be these consuls who are accosted by one of the tribunes at least, a tribune by the name of Titus Ganucius.
Oh, interesting.
He actually lays hold of them. Yeah, and that's very dramatic. I should have a sound
on hands.
I know, I should actually have a sound effect for that, because that's actually a dramatic thing that a tribune can do now.
He can touch a consul?
Well, he can touch a consul and they can't be like, get your hands off me, beat him up. I guess they just have to be like, all right, well, this is happening.
I just got touched. I'm uncomfortable with that.
Well, just because I know that we're unclear about when exactly the tribunes get the whole, you can't touch this, oh, kind of power.
My body is sacred.
But they do have that sacrosanct, sacrosanct thing happening. And so I kind of feel like this is a dramatic moment. Anyway, but after saying that, and the fact that, obviously all the consuls, all two of them, are against anything that he is proposing, then he segues into the other consuls. So...
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. So there is some overlap here. So I have a tribune by the name of Gaius Nautius.
Okay, well, Ganucius.
I'm guessing they're the same guy.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And he's definitely moving forward with land reform.
Yeah.
And he starts off, according to Dionysius, he starts off his operation for this in 473.
Okay.
So it's underneath some new consuls.
Yeah.
Lucius Aemilius Mamercus.
Yeah, I've got him. Yeah.
And Vopiscus Julius.
Yes. Now, there is some discrepancy about this. I actually checked Broughton.
Ooh.
I know.
Hello.
Yeah, so Livy actually says it's Lucius Aemilius Mamercus, who had been consul in 484 and had fought against Veii, way back in the day, like when the Fabians were first setting themselves up as like a private army, whatever. So he's obviously not new to this job. And Livy also names Opiter Virginius as an alternative.
That is nothing like Vopiscus Julius.
I actually think it might be, again, it's either a guy who's held this position before, like way back in like around 500-ish, like around the turn of the century, or it's a relative of some sort, obviously. A son, not a daughter. But he does mention that he does find in other records Vopiscus Julius as the consul. And Broughton definitely goes with Julius. So, just noting.
Yeah, okay. So we've got some interesting issues with potential names.
Yeah, exactly.
We've also got another nice reference to the date discrepancy that comes up through Dionysius, where he gives you the reference point for the Greek calendar, which is the 77th Olympiad, which turns out to be 471 BC.
Well, see, I have to admit, in my account, I am in 471.
Aha.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't really, I'm just going with what the translator's telling me. So
yeah, there seems to be about a 2-year gap.
Yeah.
At any point in time before we'd really nail down a proper calendar.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have this Ganucius figure.
Yes.
Who is whipping up the passions of the poor.
Yeah.
He assembles the populace. So the tribune of the plebs can always assemble a popular council.
Yeah.
Let's get together, people. Let's talk. So he keeps doing that, and he keeps talking about them. And what he wants essentially seems to be to force the consuls to carry out the decree of the Senate that concerns the allotment of lands. And I was like, oh, that's going way back in time,
I was going to say, I actually, when I was reading over this today, I actually had to refresh my memory about what on earth he was talking about. Because I'm like, what? We've been so fixated on Veii and external wars that I've actually forgotten where we were up to with the agrarian problem.
Yeah, the agrarian problem has been going on for nearly 15 years.
I know it's been going on for a while, but yeah, I could not remember when we last talked about it, which is actually refreshing because for a while that's all we talked about.
For a while, that was all that was on the table. Then it was all Fabii, and now we're back to agrarian crisis.
Yeah, back to the grain.
So it turns out that he's making a reference back to the consulship of 486 roundabout. Spurius Cassius Vitellinus.
I was going to say, it's going back to Spurius Cassius, who was such a demagogue.
Yeah. And Proculus Virginius Tricostus Rutilus.
Who could forget a name like that? Yet I managed to.
I rolled off the tongue that time. That was amazing for me.
Oh, very Dr. G.
Thank you.
I'm giving you an Avatio.
Oh, Oh, a little mirthful
Little
crowd.
claps.
Oh, I can wear a special toga. And these guys are the ones who said, well, maybe we should set up this decemvirate, like this council of
That's
10
right.
men.
Yes,
Of
exactly.
ex-senators, consuls.
Yes.
To go around, look at all of the public land, make a list,
Yeah.
and then start the redistribution process. And then the consuls every year from that year have stalled on following through on actually doing the work for
They're
that.
meant to be making a list. Yeah, checking it's right. Woo!
And boy, have they been abrogating their duty on that one.
I thought you were going to say naughty.
They've been naughty.
Not nice.
Not nice.
That's right, yeah.
And Ganucius is so angry, and now
Yeah.
he's making the people angry.
Absolutely. Well, yeah.
So he tries to get the consuls of that year, Aemilius and Vopiscus, in trouble, and the consuls of the previous year,
I was going
Manlius
to say,
and
yeah,
Lucius.
it's Furious and Manlius who are specifically named as well in my account.
He's like,
yeah.
you guys are supposed to have done this. Why haven't you done it?
Yeah.
And they're like, it wasn't our problem. That those sort of things came up
It
in
wasn't
a
me. It's like, oh, no.
Yeah, it's like those things came up in the consulship of so and so and so and so
Yeah,
in
exactly.
486. It was their job. You want to find out what's going on there. You need to talk to them because that happened in their magistry, not ours.
Yeah, exactly. So in my account, Furious and Manlius, because they've been called to a trial before the people, they dress up as suppliants, and they address the plebs essentially, obviously, because they're the people that are bad, but also, of course, the younger patricians. They tend to come up in these sorts of moments, the younger patricians, because I gather they're kind of hotheads. They really are like the rich, out of control.
I can't wait to be consul.
Never pay penalties for their actions. You know, they're just cruising around in Ferraris and
Rich kids.
Yeah, they come in at these moments so that the older patricians, I think, can just rile them up. But yeah, they basically talk to them, I guess trying to appeal to them, and pointing out all the stuff that in their opinion had been outrageous in the previous years. For example, the fact that Menenius had been charged and then had committed suicide because of the shame and all that kind of stuff. And so obviously they're trying to say like, no, wait a second. We don't want to get carried away with these tribunes. They do nothing but cause trouble. We don't want to go to these extremes. Is that what happens in your version of things?
Well, look.
Oh, let me guess. There's a speech.
No, thank goodness.
Okay.
I mean, I'm so pleased that there's not a speech.
Okay.
So Ganucius wants to have a trial of the consuls.
Yeah, that's definitely happening in my yeah.
But it doesn't really come about.
Well, yeah, it might have just been summoned to a trial.
Well, mostly because, unfortunately, the day before the trial, Ganucius is found dead.
Oh, yeah, okay, see, that happens after my consul's going around and, saying stuff. Yeah, very mysterious. Then it's all meant to be happening. The consuls are meant to be coming to answer the charges, and then, dun, dun, dun!
A body is found. Murder most foul.
Ooh, I feel like, do you think that's a good place to maybe leave the listeners for today? What happened to Ganucius?
Find out in the next episode.
Yeah, excellent. Now, Dr. G, I think that means that we are ready to do the partial pick.
We are certainly ready to do the partial pick.
Thank you, Igor. Ooh, put those talons away.
Oh, it's flying towards me. So, the partial pick.
Yes.
Out of there are 5 categories. We
Yes.
mark them out of 10, which means that Rome can achieve a point score of 50 Roman eagles.
They haven't even come close so far.
So far, so terrible.
Yeah, okay. So what's our first category, Dr. G?
Military clout.
Well, I actually feel like it's quite positive today. I mean, it's nothing I don't feel like it's anything spectacular, but it's pretty good.
Look, I mean, there were some battles that
Yeah.
they won.
Yep.
Triumphs were had.
Yep.
Ovadios were had.
I mean, technically, they kind of beat back the Volscians, the Aequii, the Veii, and the people from Veii, and the Sabines.
Wow. All right.
That's a lot for one episode.
I think it has to be about a 7 then.
I was going to say, I think it's 7, just because it's not spectacular. And let's face it, the Volscii didn't technically fight. They just, made the Romans come all the way out there for nothing.
Guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Teasing me.
All right, so we got a 7. Yeah.
And then we have diplomacy.
Okay. Well, there is definitely, actually, again, for once, I feel like there is evidence of some diplomacy because of the negotiation with Veii for the 40-year truce.
Yeah, you don't get a 40-year truce every day, do you?
No. I mean, will they keep to it? That's another thing. The people of Veii have played this trick before.
Yeah, but, you can't have a peace unless you start having a peace.
Precisely. Okay, so I think that's the only really...
I'd say, yeah, because we've got enemies in the sort of the south and we've got enemies in the north.
Yeah.
I kind of want to give this maybe a 6.
Okay.
Maybe.
Right, fair enough.
It's over 50.
But the grain, you were very impressed by the grain.
I was impressed by the grain, but, I mean, are the Volscii pleased? I mean, that's not diplomacy,
That's true.
It?
No, they were just like, bullying them.
Oh, you're talking about the grain that they...
The people of Veii get. Yeah,
yes.
I mean, the people of Veii give to the Romans.
Yeah. So, okay, you want to elevate that one?
Well, I kind of feel like, not only do you have a 40-year truce with Veii, but you also have them giving you grain in a grain crisis.
Nice.
And paying for your soldiers for a while, which,
nice.
Again, presumably lifts the load,
Oh, so good. Yeah.
I kind of feel like maybe it's a 7, but that's
Ooh, yeah, okay, let's do it.
Nice.
7.
All right, cool. All right, what's our next category?
Expansion.
Okay.
That is
there
a fat
none.
0.
Yeah.
None of that.
There is
It's
definitely
too early.
Yeah.
Rome's still trying to figure out who it is.
Yeah.
Virtus.
This is a tricky one.
Yeah, look.
Now, we did agree that we're judging them by their own standards. So I've got to keep that in mind. Judging it by Roman standards.
Yeah, I mean, you have Servilius who comes through his trial, manages to get out of it, and then shows his prowess in battle.
That's true.
That's all
I mean, they are fighting well. Okay. I'm still not feeling it, though. I don't feel like it's huge. I mean, there's good stuff in battle, but I feel like there's nothing else really worth mentioning. Don't you think?
It's about a 3 by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I feel like there's nothing much else.
One guy out of the whole citizen body has maybe demonstrated some weirdness.
Redeemed himself slightly.
And finally, the citizen score.
Now, this has traditionally been a very low scoring category, and I feel like we are going to continue with that tradition today.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, I've had to be fighting in a war, presumably.
I haven't been able to plant my crop.
Yet again, yeah, so I think it's got to be pretty low. However, obviously, we are on a point of, maybe change. Maybe.
And Ganucius is sticking up for the little guy.
This is true. I mean, we've had a problem with the tribunes sometimes, in that the tribunes are meant to be, it's in the title, guys. It's not just a clever name. Tribunes of the plebs. And yet, some of the tribunes seem to be very much in the patrician's pocket, or just lazy or scared. So it is heartening to see a tribune who is willing to go to the mat.
Bringing it out.
Yeah, even if he does, unfortunately, get murdered. We don't know why.
Suspense!
I know.
Nobody knows!
Suspense, yeah. So, I don't know, like a 3?
A 3? Alright, 3 it is.
Okay, well, Dr. G, you will be pleased to know that gives us a grand total of 20 Roman eagles.
Oh my goodness, they've only failed by 5.
You know what, though? That is a massive improvement. That's actually impressive.
We have seen worse.
I can't remember the last time there was a 2 before another number. Well, it's not, no, 0 is not a number, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I think we've been in the teens or under for a while.
Look, we're on the up and up, really.
Exactly. So congratulations, Rome. Enjoy your golden Roman eagles.
Until next time.
And we'd just like to quickly take this opportunity to give a shout out to a favourite podcast of ours. We've kind of been inspired by them somewhat introducing the partial pick. If you are interested in either British royal or Scottish royal history, be sure to check out the Rex Factor. You could not find 2 more delightful hosts, and they'll take you through the history of each of the kings of those respective nations, and much fun is had along the way.
Yes. Enjoy.
Enjoy.